You know, it's funny how something so small can bring the past rushing back like a flood. Just this morning, I was baking nothing fancy, just one of those little boxed pies, but I added cinnamon like Mama used to, and all of a sudden, I smelled that warm crust and sweet apple. And it was like the wind blew straight out of 1961 and carried me right back to that night. Land sakes alive, I hadn't thought about it in years, or maybe I'd been avoiding it. Hard to say. Memories don't always come when they're called, but they sure show up when they're ready. I reckon we all have one story we keep tucked deep in our bones, the kind you don't tell at church potlucks or family cookouts. The kind that sits quiet most of the time, but never really leaves. Mine's about a night I try not to think about, but Lord have mercy. Sometimes it knocks so loud I can't pretend I don't hear it. I was 9 years old. Just a little bit of a thing with knobby knees and a ribbon in my braid. We lived up in the hills of West Virginia, not near any town you'd know. Just one of those tucked away places where the road gives up before the forest does. Folks think quiet means peaceful, but quiet can be loud in its own way, especially when you're listening for footsteps that might mean trouble. You see, my granddaddy, he wasn't always the man folks talked about later. Before the bottle took hold, they say he was a good man. Fought in the war, came back with medals and dead silence in his eyes. But whatever he saw over there, it never let him go. And the whiskey, well, that became his only way to keep it at bay. But it turned him mean. Real mean. That night was different. I remember Mama was quiet all day, quieter than usual, and that's saying something. She moved around the house like she was listening to something I couldn't hear yet. She never raised her voice, never said a bad word about anybody, not even him, but I saw it in her shoulders. Tight, like a rope pulled too far. And then there was the smell. Not just the pie this morning. No, what pulled me back was a different smell. Wool and wood smoke, and ivory soap. Mama had this old sweater she kept for cold nights, the kind that scratched a little but felt safe somehow. She wrapped me up in it that night, pulled me close and whispered, "Stay quiet, sugar." And that scent, that mix of soap and smoke, it clung to my nose like a memory that didn't want to let go. I didn't know, not then, that the sound we heard from the porch was him with the shotgun. I didn't know it would be the last time I ever saw that house. All I knew was Mama's hand on mine, firm and warm, and the way she looked at me, not scared exactly, but full of something fierce. Like the mountains themselves had climbed into her spine and said, "You're not gonna break tonight." That's the night everything changed. We ran into the dark, into the woods, into a silence even the crickets dared not disturb. And you young folks wouldn't understand. You grow up thinking monsters live under the bed. Mine stood 6 foot tall on a porch made of splinters, and he had my grandfather's face. I never told this story till now. But lately, well, maybe it's time. Maybe someone needs to hear it. Maybe you do. Let me ask you something. What's the one story you've never told a soul? And why is it still holding you by the throat? Stick around. The worst part's still coming. Back in my day, well, things moved slower up in those hills. Life didn't have all the noise and hustle you young folks got now. We had roosters for alarm clocks and wind for music. I was just a little girl then, 9 years old, with a gap between my front teeth and more questions than I had shoes. I used to run barefoot till the first frost, and I thought lightning bugs were just stars trying to come down and visit for a while. We lived in a small clapboard house, white paint peeling off like sunburned skin, sitting right at the edge of the tree line in western West Virginia. Lord, that porch had a lean to it, like it had had one too many long winters, but it held us all just fine. We weren't rich, land sakes. We didn't have a pot to pee in most days, but we made do with what we had. That was just the way things were back then. Mama always had something on the stove, beans, cornbread, sometimes just hot water with salt when the shelves were bare. But she made it feel like a feast. She'd hum while she cooked, not sing exactly, just this soft little melody that still floats through my mind when I stir a pot. I didn't know it then, but that hum was her armor, the only thing keeping the world from crashing in. Daddy, well, we didn't call him that. He was granddaddy to me, but he raised me like he was my father, 'cause mine was gone before I could remember. He was big and broad-shouldered, with these tired blue eyes and hands like tree bark. Some days he'd be quiet as a ghost, just sitting on the porch with his pipe and staring off like he was looking for something only he could see. And then there were other days when the bottle took over, and we learned to walk quiet, real quiet, like our footsteps might light a fuse. But back before the trouble got too loud, before the shouts and the slamming doors, there was peace. Or maybe just the kind of peace you feel when you're too young to see the crux. I thought the world was mostly kind. I believed in Sunday dresses and clean church socks, in neighbors who'd show up with a pie when you were sick, and in the way Mama's hand always knew just where to press when your stomach hurt. I used to dream about being a school teacher. I'd line my dolls up on the quilt and give spelling tests, even scolded for talking out of turn. Thought if I could just grow up fast enough, I could fix the world. Little did I know how much fixing the world would need, and how sometimes the people who break it are sitting right at your own table. I remember thinking Mama was the strongest woman alive, not 'cause she lifted things or shouted, but 'cause she could hold silence like it was a shield. She didn't cry much. I think she saved her tears for prayers. But when she looked at me, it was like she was handing me something invisible. Some kind of strength you don't even know you're carrying until years later, when life gives you a night full of thunder and fear, and all you can do is keep walking. I didn't know yet what was coming. I didn't know that the woods would someday be our hiding place, or that Mama's sweater would become my only warmth on the coldest night of my life. All I knew was that I was a little girl in the mountains, with a big heart and big hopes, and a world that still felt like it might just be good. Funny how the past ain't gone. It just waits. Waits for the scent of apples, the crack of a porch step, the hush before the storm. And I reckon the storm was coming. I remember the sound before I saw her. 3 soft taps on the kitchen window, not loud enough to startle, just enough to hush the room. I was helping Mama snap green beans by the stove. We'd been sitting quiet for a good while, only the click of the beans breaking the stillness. The light outside was getting honey golden, that time of day when shadows stretch long and the mountain air cools, just enough to make you reach for a sweater. 3 taps. Not a knock, not a shout. Just tap, tap, tap. Mama froze. Not stiff like she was scared, more like every part of her had gone still so she could hear the world better. She set the bowl down real slow, wiped her hands on her apron, and walked over to the window like she already knew who it was. It was Miss Pauline. She lived 2 houses down, though where we were, 2 houses meant a quarter mile through trees and uphill both ways. She was the kind of woman folks whispered about, mostly 'cause she wore bright scarves and red cards like they meant something. Some said she'd never married on account of her heart being broken long before I was born. Others just said she was different, which in them days was the polite way of saying folks didn't understand her. But I liked her. She smelled like clove gum and wild mint. And when she looked at you, she saw you, like she could read more than just your face. That day, she didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just pressed her hand to the glass and mouthed something. I couldn't hear what, but Mama did. And her face. Lord have mercy, I'll never forget how her face changed. She turned and said my name soft. Honey, she said, go on and get that old sweater of mine from the hook. The green one. Now I was 9. old enough to know when something was off, but still young enough to think maybe we were just visiting someone or stepping out for air. So I ran to the hook, grabbed that itchy green wool sweater, the one that smelled like ivory soap and ashes, and brought it back. Mama knelt in front of me, pulled it over my head, and zipped it up so gentle. Then she took my chin in her hand and looked at me like she was studying me for the last time. "We're gonna walk real quiet," she said. "Just follow Miss Pauline. Don't look back, all right?" And something in my chest started to pound. Not hard, more like fast little thumps, like my heart was trying to catch up to what my brain hadn't figured out yet. I didn't ask questions. That was the rule when Mama's voice got that steady. We slipped out the back. The screen door creaked, but no louder than a whisper. The woods behind our house were darker than usual, or maybe it just felt that way, 'cause of what Mama wasn't saying. It was Pauline who whispered then. "He's coming up the road, drunk and yelling. Has the gun." Now, I didn't know what fear truly was till that moment. I'd seen anger. I'd seen nights when Granddaddy slammed the door and Mama tucked me under the quilt with a soft hymn on her lips. But this was different. This was run or die. And I didn't know it yet, but that tap at the window, that quiet little signal, was the crack that split our whole world open. Looking back, I still don't know how Miss Polly knew. Maybe she saw something in the cards. Or maybe she just knew the sound of danger after living beside it too long. But I'll tell you what, when a woman with a broken heart and bright scarves shows up at your window without saying a word, you listen, and you don't wait. I remember my feet hurt. That's the first thing I recall from those woods, not fear, not the dark, not even the cold. Just the ache in my heels, and how every stick I stepped on felt like it was screaming under me. We weren't running fast, more like slipping through the trees like shadows. Mama holding my hand so tight I couldn't tell where her fingers ended and mine began. Miss Pauline led us for a while, her scarf tied round her head, eyes darting like a fox watching for traps. But once we crossed that old fence line, she stopped. "I can't go no further," she whispered. "If he don't find you at home, he'll come my way. I gotta protect what's mine." Mama nodded, didn't say a word, just squeezed Pauline's arm and turned toward the old path that led to the broken-down shed in the hollow, the one Granny used to hide in during storms. It wasn't much. Roof had a hole in it the size of a watermelon, and there was a smell of damp hay and old iron. But it was away, and that night, that was enough. We crawled inside, and Mama pulled the door closed behind us. No lock, just with swollen from the rain and time. She sat me down, pulled me into her lap, and wrapped the sweater tighter around my arms. I could hear her breathing, slow, even like she was choosing calm over and over again. That's the first time I realized being brave ain't the same as not being scared. Brave is what you do while your hands are shaken. I didn't cry. I think I was too scared to cry. But inside, I was boiling with things I didn't have words for. I was mad at Granddaddy for being mean, mad at the war for messing him up, mad at the bottle that turned him into something I couldn't recognize. But mostly I felt shame, and I didn't know where it came from. Just this heavy thing in my chest, like I had done something wrong, like it was my fault we were hiding in a shed, like I was weak for being scared. I wanted to ask Mama, why is he like this? Why doesn't he love us? But I couldn't open my mouth, 'cause if I did, the tears might come, and I knew Mama needed me to be still. So I sat there, my face pressed against her chest, listening to her heartbeat, and hers was steady, even as mine felt like a drum being beat from the inside out. Then we heard him. It wasn't words, not yet. Just the crunch of boots over branches and the distant clink of metal like he was dragging the gun barrel against his belt. He was calling out, slurring my Mama's name, shouting and curses that echoed through the holler like thunder trying to find someone to strike. My whole body turned to stone, and that's when the real conflict started, not just outside, but inside me. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to shout back, to tell him I hated him, that I wasn't scared. But another part, the quieter one, whispered, "He's your granddaddy. He used to carry you on his shoulders. He used to give you peppermint from his pocket." That part made me feel like a traitor for hiding, and that tore me up more than anything else. I didn't know how to hold all that love and hate, fear and guilt, the memory of peppermint, and the sound of a shotgun. But Mama did. She just kept holding me. And when the silence came again, when his voice got lost in the trees and the night swallowed up his footsteps, she kissed the top of my head and whispered, "We're gonna be all right, baby. Just stay with me." And Lord help me, I believed her, even when I wasn't sure what all right meant anymore. I remember the moment the wind changed. Up till then, the night had been still, heavy, like it was holding its breath with us. But suddenly the trees started whispering, the shed creaked like it was trying to warn us, and I swear I could feel every hair on my arms stand up. Mama must have felt it too, 'cause she shifted just enough to pull me tighter, her hand resting gentle but firm on the back of my head. "Don't move," she breathed. And then we heard it, a crack. Not thunder, not branches. Wood, the shed door. It didn't swing open, just nudged, just enough for a sliver of lantern light to creep in through the gap. And there he was, Granddaddy. He wasn't shouting now. He wasn't even talking. He was crying. Soft, choking sobs, like a man who didn't know where he was anymore. The gun hung limp at his side, like even it was tired of all this. Mama didn't speak, didn't breathe. And I didn't know what to feel. My stomach turned to ice, my throat closed up, and time just stopped. I don't know how long we sat there, frozen. Could have been seconds. Could have been hours. I just know the world narrowed to that door, that gun, and the man I used to sit beside on the porch, the man who used to tell me stories about the stars and give me a sip of his coffee when no one was looking. But that man was gone. What stood there was hollowed out, full of ghosts. He stepped forward. Mama moved. Just a little. Just enough to put herself between me and him. And I saw her hand go for the iron poker that was leaning by the wall, one we used for stirring coals. She didn't grab it. Not yet. Just rested her fingers on it. A warning. And that's when it happened. He looked right at us, his eyes wild but wet, and he said, "You think you're better than me?" His voice cracked, raw as gravel. "You take my girl and run?" Then he raised the gun, not steady, just lifted it like it was heavier than he expected. Mama stood up, all 5 feet and nothing of her, standing between a drunk man and a child, barefoot on cold dirt, her jaw set like stone. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just said, real low, "You'll have to kill me first." I don't remember breathing. I don't remember blinking. I just remember how time folded in on itself, like the clock inside me broke, and all I had left was that image. My mama, a shadow in the lantern light, staring down the man who once gave her life. And then, he dropped the gun, just like that. Dropped it in the dirt like it burned him. And he sank to his knees, sobbing so hard it didn't even sound human. Like the weight of every sin, every war, every bottle he ever drank came crashing down on him all at once. Mama didn't comfort him. She didn't move. She just stood there, trembling not from fear, but from every ounce of fight she'd had to hold in for too long. And me, I realized in that moment I'd never see my granddaddy the same again. I'd never go running into his arms or sit on his knee. That version of him, the peppermint and stories, it died right there on the floor of that shack. And I grew up. Not all at once. Not in ways folks could see. But deep down, something shifted. The world didn't feel safe anymore. But Mama did. And from that night on, I stopped waiting for someone to come save us. Because she already had. After it was over, everything got too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, like after a hymn in church. No, this was different. This was the kind of quiet that settles in your bones. Like the world's still spinning, but somehow you've been left behind. We didn't go back to the house. Miss Pauline showed up the next morning with a bag of biscuits and that same scarf still tied round her hair. She didn't ask questions. She just helped Mama gather a few things from the porch, the ones Granddaddy hadn't touched, and then walked us down the hill to the road. Mama carried the gun. No one said a word about that. A week later, my Aunt Ruth came from Charleston in a rusted blue Ford. She pulled up, stepped out in her Sunday coat, and said, "Pack what you can carry. We're leaving, Dot." I didn't even say goodbye to the trees. I just climbed into the back seat and watched the mountain get smaller in the mirror till it was gone. City life was loud, cars, radios, people talking fast like they were afraid of silence. We moved into a 2-room flat above a bakery that always smelled like burnt sugar and steam. Mama found work washing linens at the hospital. I went to school with kids who wore shiny shoes and asked why I talked funny. I stopped talking much. I kept thinking any day now we'd go back. But weeks turned to months, and I realized we weren't going back, not ever. The house was a ghost now, and so was the girl I'd been. I didn't dream about teaching dolls no more. I just tried to keep my head down and my hands busy. Mama was different too. Not broken, no, not her, but quieter than ever. She didn't hum anymore. She kept her hair tied back real tight and stared off into the distance a lot, like she was still listening for footsteps that never came. At night, I'd hear her in the kitchen, just sitting at the table with a cup of tea gone cold. Sometimes she'd cry, sometimes she wouldn't, but I never once saw her fall apart. I guess we both just kept moving, not really forward, but not backward either. Just moving. And I'll tell you something. I started to feel like I didn't belong anywhere. I wasn't that little mountain girl no more, but I wasn't city folk either. I was caught somewhere in between, carrying a story no one asked to hear. Folks in town didn't want to know about what we left behind, and I didn't know how to say it anyway. How do you explain the kind of love that still aches for the same hands that nearly ruined you? I didn't trust people the way I used to. Didn't believe in the kindness of strangers or the promises adults made. If someone raised their voice too quick or moved too fast, my stomach would twist. I thought maybe I was broken. Like part of me got left in that shed and would never catch up. But Mama, she never let me drown in that feeling. Even on the hard days, she'd brush my hair, pack my lunch, and whisper, "We're still here, baby. We're still here." And somehow, those words kept me upright. Not healed, not whole, but upright. Sometimes that's enough. Funny how people think pain ends when the violence does. But it doesn't. It lingers. It changes how you laugh, how you walk into a room, how you hold someone's hand. It takes a long, long time to learn how to live after the storm. And longer still to believe the sun might come back. You know, I don't rightly remember the exact day things started changing. Not like a big flash of light or a voice from the heavens. No, it was quieter than that. Life don't always give you a grand announcement when you're getting your second chance. Sometimes it shows up in the smallest way. For me, it came in the form of a little boy with a crooked smile and jelly on his chin. It was spring, maybe about a year after we'd left the mountains. Mama had started working longer hours, and Aunt Ruth signed me up to help with the children's group at church, said I needed to be around other young folks. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be seen. Didn't want to sit in a room full of laughter that didn't feel like it belonged to me. But I went anyway, mostly 'cause I didn't want to disappoint Mama. That first Sunday, I sat in the corner with my arms crossed tight and my heart even tighter. The other kids played with crayons and glue and plastic farm animals, and I just watched like someone who'd forgot how to be a kid. And then he came over. Couldn't have been more than 4 years old. He had a mop of wild blonde curls and one sock fallen down, and he was clutching a cracked plastic truck like it was made of gold. He looked right at me and said, "You're sad." Now, most grown folks don't even notice. They see the polite smile, the clean clothes, and they figure everything's fine. But this little boy, Lord have mercy, he saw right through it. I didn't say nothing, just looked at him, and he handed me that truck. Didn't ask me to play, just dropped it in my lap and plopped down beside me like we'd known each other our whole lives. And I don't know what happened, but something inside me cracked a little. Not the bad kind of crack, not like when something breaks, but like when you open a window after a long winter and the air finally moves again. I sat there holding that old toy truck, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel heavy. He didn't talk much after that, just leaned his head on my arm and hummed to himself real soft. And right then, I realized something I hadn't thought about in a long time. I still had something to give. That boy didn't need a perfect girl. He didn't need someone happy or whole. He just needed someone to sit with him. And I could do that. The next week, I went back. And the week after that, before long, I was helping with Sunday crafts, passing out snacks, tying shoes. I started talking again, just a little at first. But those little voices, those messy hands and loud giggles, they brought a kind of music back to me I thought I'd lost. And Mama, Lord, she noticed. She didn't say much, but one evening she came home, looked me in the eye, and said, "It's good to see you smiling again." That smile didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the hurt or rewrite what we'd been through. But it was a start. I started to believe, maybe, just maybe, we hadn't run from life. Maybe we'd run towards something better. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Just one small hand on your arm, one broken toy, one little soul who doesn't know your story, but somehow helps you start writing a new one. I kept that sweater till I was in my 30s. Mama's old green wool one, the one she wrapped me in that night, when the trees swallowed us whole and the world we knew came apart at the seams. It still smelled like her, even years later, ivory soap, fireplace smoke, and the faintest trace of cinnamon. I kept it folded in a shoebox under my bed like some kind of talisman. I told myself it was just a keepsake, a memory. But the truth is, I wasn't ready to let go of the girl who wore it. The scared little thing that sat in that shed, heart pounding, thinking the world might end any second. I carried her everywhere, to school, to jobs, even into love. And bless their hearts, the men I tried to love never understood why I flinched at certain sounds, or why sometimes I'd stare at the wall for whole minutes, feeling like I'd been yanked backward in time. I couldn't explain it. I didn't know how to say, "I'm not broken, but I'm patched together in ways you'll never see." Years passed. Mama got older, quieter still. I became her, in some ways not in silence, but in strength. I found my voice working with children, broken ones, like I'd been. I helped em feel safe, helped em tell the stories they didn't think they were allowed to speak out loud. But mine, I still hadn't told mine. Until one day, not all that long ago, I opened that box again. Same box, same smell. And Lord have mercy, it hit me like a wave. Not just the memories, but the weight of holding onto something that belonged to a moment I didn't live in anymore. I sat there on the edge of the bed, sweater in my lap, and I cried harder than I had in decades. Not the quiet tears, the real ones, the ones that come from deep down where the truth lives. And when I was done, I folded that sweater up one last time. I walked it outside, and I lit a fire, a small one, safe and slow. And I watched that sweater catch, curl, and turn to smoke. It wasn't about Eris in the past. It was about laying it down. You see, I finally understood something. That little girl didn't need protecting anymore. Because she made it out. She became me. And I'm still here. Not because it didn't hurt. Not because I forgot. But because I chose to live past it. I chose not to let one man's brokenness become the cage I carried. I forgave him. Now, don't misunderstand, I didn't excuse him. I didn't pretend he wasn't dangerous, or that Mama wasn't a saint for what she did. But I forgave him for what he couldn't fix in himself. And I forgave myself for carrying the weight of it too long. I let go. That day, I walked back inside and looked at myself in the mirror, really looked. And I said out loud, "You made it. You're allowed to breathe now." And just like that, I did. I didn't turn into someone new. I just stopped fighting the woman I already was. Wounded, maybe, but wise and alive. And I chose to live without bitterness, without shame, without keeping one foot in the fire. Just forward. You know, folks always think the hardest part is the moment itself, the night you run, the door that breaks open, the gun in the dark. But I'll tell you something. The hardest part is what comes after. It's learning how to live with the echoes. It's waking up years later and realizing you still brace yourself when someone raises their voice, even if it's just a laugh in the wrong key. I used to think surviving meant being tough. Keeping your chin up, pushing forward, not letting folks see the cracks. But that ain't it. That's just holding your breath. Surviving, real surviving, means learning to live with the cracks. To make peace with the parts of you that were shaped by fire. It means letting the past ride beside you, but not letting it steer. I think about that little girl I used to be, sitting in the dirt, watching her world fall apart. I didn't understand then how many pieces would come with me. But now, when I look back, I don't just see the fear. I see the strength it took to stay quiet, to keep breathing, to trust Mama's hand when the night was full of shadows. And you know what I've come to understand? That was enough. Just staying, just lost in. That was enough. We don't give ourselves credit for how much we endure. We look for some big moment of redemption, like the movies, but life ain't like that. Most of the time, it's just small choices, quiet steps, and getting up one more day when your heart don't want to. But piece by piece, that's how you build a life again. I don't tell you all this for sympathy. I tell it 'cause maybe, just maybe, someone out there's carrying their own old sweater in a box under the bed. Maybe they're still waiting for the right time, the right person, the right kind of strong to let go. And maybe what they need to hear is this. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until it don't hurt. You don't have to wait until the world makes sense or somebody gives you permission to heal. You can start now, shaky, scared, but ready. The past is a powerful thing. It can teach you, shape you, even follow you. But it don't get to own you. Not forever. I thought for years that I had to earn joy. That after all we went through, I wasn't allowed to just be happy. Like happiness had to be justified. But I know better now. Joy is your birthright. Peace is not a reward, it's a choice. And forgiveness, well, that's the only way you ever get to lay your burden down. I still carry the past. Sure I do. It lives in how I walk, in the way I flinch at thunder, in the way I wrap my grandbabies just a little tighter than most. But it also lives in the way I love, in the way I listen, in the way I stay soft even now. And maybe that's the best we can do. Take what tried to break us and use it to grow tenderness. So I'll say this, plain and simple, like my mama would have. Maybe it's time you stopped waiting. Stopped waiting for the right moment, or for the fear to leave. Stopped waiting for the world to fix what it didn't break. Maybe it's time you let yourself live. Well, I reckon if you've stayed with me this long, you know more about my heart than most folks ever do. And I thank you for that. It's not easy digging up old ghosts and laying them out in the open like fresh linens, but sometimes the only way to lighten the load is to speak it out loud, plain and true, like we used to do on front porches with sweet tea and time on our hands. You know this story. It ain't just about a girl, a gun, and a green sweater. It's about what we carry, what we survive, and what we choose to do after. There's a part of me, the part that still lingers in the trees of West Virginia, that wonders if he ever remembered that night. My granddaddy, if somewhere, in the fog of his later years, he ever pictured the shape of Mama standing in that shed door, or if he felt the weight of the gun, the sob that cracked him open, the way the stars looked that night when he dropped to his knees. I never asked, and he never said. But sometimes, sitting by the window with my quilt across my lap and the wind flowing just right, I swear I can feel it that maybe he did remember. And I think about Mama, how she never asked for thanks, never needed to be called brave. She just was. She gave me a map without ever drawing one. And the older I get, the more I see how many women have done the same. Quiet warriors, strong in the ways that don't make noise. This story, as much as it's mine, might just be yours too. Maybe your pain wore a different face. Maybe it didn't come with boots on the porch or a gun at the door. Maybe it came in the shape of silence, or absence, or words that cut deep and left no bruise to show. But you're here, ain't you? Still breathing, still holding on, even if it's just by a thread some days. So let me ask you something, plain and simple. What story are you still carrying? The one you don't tell at family dinners. The one you tuck behind your smile when folks say, "You're so strong." What would happen if you let it breathe? If you said it out loud, even just to yourself? 'Cause here's what I've learned. The pain don't shrink just because you hide it. But love gets bigger when you share it. And if you take anything from my tale, let it be this. You don't have to be fine to be faithful. You don't have to be whole to be holy. And you sure don't have to be fearless to move forward. Sometimes we just need someone to sit with us in the shed for a while. No fixing, no preaching, just a hand to hold and the quiet understanding that says, "I see you, I hear you, and I'm not going anywhere." So tell me, what are you still waiting for? Forgiveness? Peace? A sign? A good enough reason? Maybe this story was it. Maybe this was your sign. And if it was, well, we're still here, aren't we? And that's not nothing.